So again, welcome everyone to today's session, Form 470 Category 2, Workshop for Libraries with Lori Gurman. Thank you, Lori, for being here too.
My pleasure. Thank you, Christine, and good afternoon. I started to say good morning. As Christine said, it's been a little crazy today, but we are talking about Category 2 today. So let's just jump in. Now, just a reminder, you may have attended the Cat 1 training a couple of days ago. So you heard this during that session. Just a reminder, the purpose of the 470. This is where you are stating your intent, to request pricing. The form itself acts as a request for proposal. When we file this, because it acts as this RFP, we do have the mandatory 28-day competitive bidding waiting period. You can wait longer, obviously, than 28 days, providing that would still give you time to file the next form in the process, the 471. But again, you have to show that you waited that minimum 28 days. Now, the E-rate cardinal rule is that if a service is not listed on a 470, you cannot get it funded on a 471. There are two exceptions to that. There is an exception under Category 2 specifically or only for libraries, where if you're only asking for $3,600, and that's what we call the pre-discount amount. So if it costs, if you're paying up to $3,600 per library branch, you don't have to go out to bid. And again, this only applies to libraries. The FCC did not extend this to the schools. So if you're asking for that minimal amount, like I said, $3,600 or less per branch location, you don't have to file the 470. You can move forward with the 471. Everything else under Category 2 has to be bid out, all right, and listed on the 470. When we talk about Category 2, this is split between three subcategories called internal connections. That's the actual equipment itself. So router switches, access points, controllers, structured cabling, all right, all of that fits under internal connections, as well as right to use license. So if you're asking, say, for some access points, and depending on the manufacturer, if they do require, the license, if it's just right to use, that falls under internal connections. We also have the subcategory called managed internal broadband service, or MIBS. This is where you're contracting with a third party to provide the management, the monitoring of your network. And then basic maintenance, it is the basic maintenance of internal connections equipment. So basic maintenance of router switches, controllers, and so on. Now with E-rate, we have to apply every year if you want funding. But like I said, with the 470, there may be some exceptions when you don't have to file the 470. This is the only form in the forms that we file where you get a break. All right. Do I need to file this form on an annual basis? Keep in mind, if you have a multi-year contract, maybe you're already contracted for a MIBS service, because you may do that as a 3-year or a 5-year contract. So if your current contract will cover this upcoming funding year, meaning that it will cover July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026, you don't need to file a 470. A 470 is already on record, all right, and attached to that multi-year contract in the portal. So when you file the 471, you're in essence pointing to that previously filed 470. All right, but again, everything else, like I said, you have to put that on a 470, except for that $3,600 or less, library exemption there. Now, because we are talking about Category 2, I have to mention that in order to qualify for this funding as a library, you have to be SEPA compliant. All right, so again, just keep that in mind. And Christine did mention as far as this being a 5-year budget. So yes, this upcoming funding year, the 2025 funding year, it will be year 5 of this current 5-year budget cycle. Then beginning July 1, 2026, then you'll basically receive a new 5-year budget. All right, but any funds left in your budget will not roll over. It will get zeroed out come, basically July 1, 2026, get zeroed out for this, current 5-year cycle, and then you'll get the new 5-year budget. All right, so let's just jump in. There's several different ways you can get into the form. The easiest is there are some shortcuts in the upper right-hand corner. Once you log into the EPC, the EPIC portal, from the landing page in the upper right, you'll see where it lists SEC Form 470. All right, so you'd click there. All applications in the portal asks for a nickname. This is user defined. And, I say this over and over again, make sure it's something descriptive enough so that looking back at the forms later, what's included in that application. I've seen applicants over the years indicate this is my, my Form 470A, 470B, because you can have multiple 470s out there, and then cannot remember, a year down the road, what's the difference between the two. All right, so make it descriptive. I typically put the funding year, the type service I'm asking for. You can also include, your library system. If you're an independent library, include the library name in the nickname if you choose. All right, but again, it's user defined. So once we provide that, then we click on Save and Continue. All right, now this is just information. Once you go to the next screen, indicating the type applicant that you are. So in this case, we can see that this is a library system, and then the number of entities, in this case 7, and that it's a public library, all right, public library system. This is, like I said, just informational. There's nothing you can change here. We just click on Save and Continue. Now, I do want to show you, if for some reason, let's say you get interrupted while you're filing the form, you step away from the portal, the system does have a habit of timing out, right? So then you would have to log back into the portal and go out and find that previously started 470. Oftentimes folks will, it's like, I don't know where to find it. So they just start all over again. Well, if you do that so that you have incomplete forms in the portal, the system has this very annoying habit come about April or May, long after the deadline to file. The system basically auto sends emails saying that, hey, you've got an incomplete form. You need to get in there and get that submitted. Causes a lot of confusion. All right, so let me show you how you would get back into the application. So we do that. You'll notice across the top where it says tasks. Let me go one more step here. So click on the word task, and then you should see, if you started something previously, a task listed as create Form 470. All right, and I have fussed about this since the portal came out in 2016. It should say continue. All right, you're not creating it, from square one. It's just going to pick up where you left off. All right, but if it says create, in essence, you're continuing a previously started form. But it will show the nickname you gave it. All right, it's just a hyperlink. Click there. Again, picks up where you left off. All right, now it does ask, are you the main contact? Yes or no. And when you indicate yes, it's going to auto-populate all of your contact information, based on however you logged in. All right, your name, your email address, and phone number. And so by doing that, you are then the primary contact for this application. So the individual that the service provider will reach out to if they have any questions about services listed on your form. If you indicate no, that you're not the main contact, you could only select someone that has a portal account. At this point, you could not manually add a contact. Later in the form, you do have an option to add a technical contact, and the technical contact does not have to have a portal account. In that case, you can manually add their information there. All right, so we'll just click on Save and Continue. Now, on the Form 470, we do have the option, if we are applying for both Category 1 and Category 2, to put both categories of service on the same Form 470. When we file the 471, the next form in the process, we're required to split those. So if you are applying for both Category 1 and Category 2, then plan on filing 2 separate 471 applications. But again, it's not a problem on the 470, all right, if you have both on the same form. All right, but here we're going to indicate we're just applying for Cat 2 today. All right, so I'll check the box there to indicate Category 2. And under, you can see where it says Category 2, it again lists those 3 subcategories. So I'll click on Save and Continue. Now it's going to ask, is there an RFP for any of the services that you're requesting? This could be just a simple spreadsheet, a PDF document, maybe giving some additional information about the services that you're asking for or the equipment. Does not have to be a true formal, request for proposal. All right. It's just at the portal, any document that you upload, they refer to it as an RFP. So don't panic there. All right. So again, it could just be, like I said, that support document. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to indicate yes, because I have a spreadsheet detailing some of the equipment that I want. Just makes it easier for any service provider looking at my 470 to get a real true understanding about what it is I'm requesting. So I'll indicate yes, click on upload, go out and find my document, click on continue. So here's just a quick example. All right, so, and I apologize, I have not updated this, so old model, so please ignore that. As a former IT director, it's like, heaven forbid I did that. Sorry. Okay, but again, it's just a simple spreadsheet, with the item description. Now, just know we are allowed to state specific make and model, but if you do that, you have to follow up with the language. Anytime you state a make and model, add the language or equivalent. Because if you don't, then the FCC says that your form is not fair and open. All right. Again, just that's been an E-rate rule for a very long time. But like I said, just could just be a simple spreadsheet where I've indicated, like I said, make, model, or equivalent, the quantity. The provider could use this as their pricing sheet, if they would like. All right, but here's my estimated quantity for each. So again, something that simple. Now, if you are asking for MIBS, the Managed Internal Broadband Service, when you ask for that, you could ask for management monitoring of your existing equipment. Well, any service provider bidding on this would have to know what equipment do you currently have. So that would be another example. You could, again, upload just a simple spreadsheet that says, here's what we have existing, make, model, and the quantity. At that point, you don't need to add that or equivalent language because you're stating this is what we already have in place. We're just looking for someone to do that management of it. All right. So again, that would not be an issue. All right, so once I upload the document and I click on Save and Continue, and I apologize, it says school district here. The 470 works exactly the same, whether you're a school or a library, all right? But once you upload the document and it sees that we're only asking for Category 2 on this application, it's going to say, if applicable, please select the RFP that applies to all Category 2 services. So if you uploaded, say, a spreadsheet showing any new equipment, if there was a spreadsheet for existing equipment that you want managed, all right, you can upload multiple documents. But again, if all the documents you uploaded pertain to Cat 2, go ahead and check the box to the left of each of those document names. And sorry for the snarky little smiley face. If you did not upload a document, if you answered no in the previous screen, obviously you're not going to see this piece. I've had panic phone calls from folks saying, this is not matching, what your training was showing. All right, again, you're not going to see this option if you didn't upload a document. So save and continue. Okay, so this is where we really get into the meat of filing the 470. We're going to add service request. Now, keep in mind, let's say you're looking for a new firewall, maybe a switch, a core switch, some access points, controller, license for some new APs along with the APs, a rack to mount the equipment in, a UPS, some structured cabling because you need to run new Ethernet drops, all right, to install those new APs. I just named about 7 or 8, distinct different things. So that means you're going to have to add each one of those individually so that each of those items are listed on this form. As you add each service, it's going to build a table, all right? And it's going to indicate, what exactly you were looking for. And that's where it's that E-rate rule. If it's not listed in that table, you're not going to get funded. All right. Even if, let's say you forgot to add the access points in that table, but you mentioned in the narrative that you're also seeking access points, the USAC reviewers would look at this and say, sorry, it's not clearly listed on the form. It has to be in that table. All right. Now, another little note here. Remember that what we call non-instructional facilities. I see this applying more to schools than libraries. But if you do have that separate facility where it's not open to your patrons, that equipment, if you want, equipment specifically for that site, say some access points, that building does not qualify for Category 2 funding. It qualifies for your internet bandwidth, right? Category 1, but not Cat 2. But if you wanted, let's say you needed a total of 30 access points, and you knew that 5 of those were going to be allocated for that non-instructional, all right, that NIF, you could go ahead and ask for quotes for the full count. All right, but when you go to file the 471, the next form in the process, then you would only show the 25 that would be eligible. But again, no harm in asking for the full count and include those, those ineligible locations. All right, not a problem there. All right, so to start this, we click on the blue Add New Service Request. Now, once we get into this, I'm going to jump over to a training site that we have that USAC made available to the state coordinators and let you see what the actual form looks like. It might make a little more sense there versus just looking at the static slides. All right, but I do want to show you when we click on Add a New Service Request, it's going to give us the 3 different subcategories. It's been a little confusing because it does not call these internal connections or clearly state basic maintenance of or MIBS. All right, it gives you the full description. All right, but just so that you know, this first one where it says, I seek bids for the equipment needed for broadband connectivity within schools and libraries and related software right to use license. All right, that is internal connections. The second one, a little bit easier to pick out. It's basic maintenance of the eligible equipment. And then the third one would be the MIBS. I seek bids for operation, management, and monitoring. All right, but again, just to help you, figure out what's what there. All right, now if we start, adding that equipment, all right, we're going to add a new service request. When we choose that first radio button, then we click on a pull down to choose the function. All right, now some of this, like the first one, antennas, connectors, and related components. That's kind of a catch-all. Training I was doing yesterday, someone mentioned that they needed a transceiver, all right, for one of their switches. Transceivers are not listed specifically here, all right? So if you don't see, some of those pieces and parts listed, put it under the catch-all, all right? Antennas, connectors, and related components, and then you would explain in the narrative, or if you upload that support document. All right, explain, specifically what you're looking for, if it's a transceiver or any type of module. All right, but again, once we get to the 471, this list is broken out much further. All right, but again, 470, not as well. All right, but we see the option here for cabling, and again, that is whether you're running a fiber run to connect 2 closets. If it's Ethernet, does not matter. If it's patch cables. All right, all of that falls under cabling. We'll see the option here for caching. Now, anytime you see a piece of equipment, so caching server, firewall, routers, switches, All right, so on, you'll see the added language and necessary software and licenses. So if you're asking for, let's say, the access points and whoever you've standardized on, you know that there's also right to use license that will be needed. You do not have to list the license separately. All right, just by asking for the equipment, you're also requesting any necessary software or licenses with that equipment. All right, so again, let me go over here. Give me just a second, see if I can find it here. Sorry, I needed to hop around here. There, I thought it had timed me out. Sorry. All right, so again, this is what the form looks like. So when we click on Add New Service, and I click on the radio button, all right, this is where we see that function pull down. Now, I also want to point out here, pay special attention. When you choose a radio button of those 3 subcategories, it's going to show you the service type. All right, so here it's telling us specifically that this is internal connections. If you go to ask for basic maintenance of internal connections, the pull down looks very similar. And I've actually seen applicants go in and file a 470, and add access points and a controller and switches, all of this equipment, and not realize they had put everything under basic maintenance of that type equipment. They went ahead, they didn't realize they had made a mistake. They received a funding letter and didn't find out until after the funding letter was issued that they had asked for maintenance of that type equipment, not the actual equipment. All right. And then it was, basically there was nothing they could do about it. It was long past the date to file an appeal. All right. So they had to wait until the next year and apply again. So again, just be really careful. If you're looking specifically for equipment, make sure it says internal connections. All right. So then when I click on the function, all right, then you just choose here in the list, what are you looking for? Well, let's say I need some access points. So we see here wireless access points and necessary software and licenses. When I do that, then it gives me the option here to choose my preferred manufacturer. All right. And you get this very long list. All right. So you just go through the list, find your manufacturer. All right. Just as an example here, when you choose the manufacturer, it automatically adds the language at this point or equivalent, again, to make sure it's fair and open. Right below that, it is asking, are you seeking installation, activation, and initial configuration? Well, if you're not sure whether you're going to do the installation or if you want the vendor, the service provider, to do that for you, if in doubt, always answer yes. All right. And then in the narrative or in that, RFP, if you uploaded a support document, state that, all installation cost, needs to be quoted separately. So that way, then you can decide, once you get the quotes, do you want E-Rate to cover the installation or you install it yourself? All right. But if you indicate no here, then you basically have removed your, that chance of that opportunity of getting the install piece covered. Now, right below that, it does say, select the RFP, because we said, here are some documents we're going to upload under the category 2. It automatically assumes this document, pertains to what we're asking here. All right. And if it does, just leave the check mark there. All right. If it doesn't pertain to this specific item, you can remove the check mark. Now we come over here and we ask, or we indicate the quantity. So let's say we're looking for 50 access points. Now this is an estimated count. If you wind up needing 52, 55, that's okay. All right. Just know that if you decide, well, no, I really needed 75, USAC says that's not a reasonable increase. They won't give us a percentage, that is acceptable. They just say it has to be reasonable. But I do know that if it's generally maybe more than 10%, they balk at that. Now, below this, it is asking, do you want to create an accompanying Cat 2 basic maintenance of internal connections request for this hardware. All right. Now, because this is brand new equipment, it's going to come with a manufacturer warranty. I am not going to ask for basic maintenance there, but I am going to show you, an occasion when you would want to check that box. All right. But again, this is brand new equipment. It's going to come with a manufacturer warranty, so I will not check that box. Now, we'll come over here to the right-hand corner and click on Save Request. I do want to point out here, though, this was new starting, maybe last year? This option, Save and Create Another Request. When I first saw that, I thought, well, that's great. Then I can go in and now I can add, my switches. No, if I click on Save and Create Another Request, it's going to basically completely duplicate everything I listed here. It's going to give me a second line item for 50 access points with the preferred manufacturer of Cisco. I'm not sure who decided that that was a good feature on the form. Just know that we typically don't use it. Okay, so I'm going to click on Save Request. All right, and now we can see that we have that first line here. All right, building that table. So I would just continue. All right, if I want to come in here, let's say I want to request cabling. With cabling, it's a little strange. It's basically asking what's the total length in feet that you're looking for. All right. So if you're looking at running some new Ethernet drops, well, Ethernet, Cat 6 would go about 325 feet. I rounded up to about 350. Let's say I need 10 new drops. All right. So I would put in at least 3,500. All right. If you're asking for 100, 5-foot patch cables, do the math. All right. It's not a problem to even, estimate really high. All right. It's just kind of a crazy way of indicating what you're looking for. But then that's where you're going to explain in that narrative or that support document that you uploaded, explaining what it is that you really need. All right. Like I said, it's just a little strange there. Now, when we're asking for cabling, we didn't see this before. All right. Now, under the manufacturer, I'm not going to, specify a manufacturer for the cabling. I'll just say no, leave it at no preference. But it's asking how many entities will this serve? All right. So if I say, okay, I've got 7 library locations, but these are drops that are going to be going into 3 of my sites. All right. 3 of my branch locations. All right. Then I would just indicate how many entities, all right, will be receiving these new drops. All right. And again, I'm going to leave the box here unchecked for basic maintenance. If you wanted to ask for maintenance on your drops, you could do that. And I'll click on Save and Continue. Oh, I apologize. Did not follow my own advice. And I indicate yes, all right, for the installation activation. Yes, because if there's an install cost for my network drops, which there will be, I want to make sure that that's covered. So again, you can see it does give you an error message if you don't answer one of the boxes. All right. So again, just keep building that table. Like I said, something's missing. If you need a new UPS to plug those switches into and you fail to put it on the table, E-rate's not going to cover it. All right. But just so you see what that looks like. Now I'm going to jump back to my presentation here. All right. But I think it may help just seeing that flow a little bit. All right, so that's what we were just looking at. I do want to point out here, depending on, again, what you have in place, who the manufacturer is, some of the access points, I know Meraki, Cisco, Aruba, where they do require license, right to use license in order to use those, to use that equipment. When you go to, this gets really into the weeds, but when you go to renew those licenses, typically, the manufacturer will also include, in addition to the right to use piece, they'll include some level of maintenance, right? So basically, we have to look at the specific SKU, once you receive a quote. But if there's any maintenance at all included in an item, all right, such as this renewal, USAC says that you have to ask for these under both internal connections, and basic maintenance. All right, because if there's any level of maintenance, typically the reviewers try to push to get this funded under maintenance. There are lots of different rules when you're buying those right to use license as a maintenance request. Okay, so first off, USAC says ask for the license under both subcategories, internal connections and the basic maintenance. Something else that they suggested, and we covered this under when we conducted the beginners and the veterans training, that USAC is recommending that you check with the manufacturer that if the renewal license, ask the question specifically, does this renewal license include both the right to use and maintenance? And if so, ask that they split the cost out. When they split the cost out, again, your 470 has to have, like I said, both subcategories listed, but you can split the cost out. So when you file the 471, you will have two funding requests, one for the right to use under internal connections, and then a second request for the portion that falls under maintenance. The reason it's so important that we do that is when it's just right to use, you could maybe purchase a 3-year, a 5-year, all right, a multi-year subscription. You could go ahead and pay for the multiple years at one time and then get reimbursed all at one time. Any portion of the cost that's allocated as maintenance, even if you have to pay for that multiple year period up front, then you have to do what we call an amortization. So let's say it's a 5-year subscription. You pay all 5 years up front, right, when it's classified as maintenance, but then you would only receive funding or reimbursement of 1/5 of the cost. You would have to file a 471 5 years in a row, all right, each year asking for 1/5 of the cost. So it's really messy when we're asking for anything under basic maintenance. All right, please let me know if you have any questions there. I know that's really in the weeds and it's really confusing. All right, so again, when we're asking for the license, the way we request this, if this is, again, just the right to use renewal and possible maintenance. All right, so we still choose the function for whatever type of equipment the license are tied to. All right, so in this case, we're saying the access points. So I'm starting with the internal connections. I choose the function, wireless access points and necessary software and license. This time, though, when I come over to the manufacturer, instead of selecting my actual manufacturer, all right, I'm going to choose other. The other option is at the very bottom of that very long list. All right, so we'll indicate other. When we do that, then it's going to give us a text box where we explain what we're looking for. So here I indicated we are seeking license for our existing 100 Meraki, and then put in whatever the model is. All right, because we're asking for license for what we already have existing on site. It's perfectly fine to state a specific make and model. You would not need to follow that up with the or equivalent. All right. Now, if there's any activation fee, I want that covered, so I'll indicate yes. Now, this is where this extra box here comes in very handy, because USAC says for renewal license, you need to ask for it under both internal connections and basic maintenance. If I check the box here, it's going to automatically create that line item in my table for the maintenance to get my license covered. All right, so again, makes that very easy. So I'll click on Save Request. All right, so again, that's how we would ask for those renewals. Now, if we are, let's say we have some switches already in place, we have some routers. If you want to request just straight maintenance, all right, on that equipment, we choose that second radio button. I seek bids for basic maintenance of the eligible equipment. Now, this is where I was saying that it looks very similar when you're adding equipment under internal connections, right, intending to purchase the equipment outright. When I choose that second radio button, it will show me, and again, this is where you make sure check it, it's showing that this is for basic maintenance of internal connections. Then when I click on the function, we're going to see all of those very same, that very same listing, but the language about and, the software or license, that language has been removed. All right, because again, this truly is just the maintenance of that equipment. So if I'm asking for maintenance on my network drops, on a firewall, on a router, switch, whatever, all right, choose the type of equipment. All right, now when we do that, it's going to have us select the manufacturer. All right, now you'll notice it just says the manufacturer name. It does not add or equivalent, because the assumption here is if you're just asking for maintenance, you already have the equipment. So we indicate what's the quantity, what's the total quantity that you're, total number of routers that you want maintenance on. And then it's also going to ask us, well, how many entities will this serve? All right, if it's going to be, say you're a library system with main library and 3 branches for a total of 4, indicate that. All right, and then save request. Now, I want to show you here, if you are asking for those renewal license and you forgot to check that little box down below, all right, how do I go about, adding that additional line? Okay, like I said, this is if you missed checking that little box there when you were doing the renewals. So here I would choose that second radio button, all right, for basic maintenance. I choose the type of equipment. So here I said wireless access points. Now the rest of this is exactly the same when we did this under internal connections. For manufacturer, I'll indicate other. And then under the description, license for my existing 100, a Meraki, whatever that make and model, right? And then the quantity there. In the narrative, you're going to explain that that you have requested renewal license under both service types, because at the point that you're submitting the 470, you don't know for sure which subcategory it's going to fall under. All right. So again, just make it clear for any vendor, any service provider looking at your 470, what your intent is. All right. You're really not asking to buy, say in this case, additional APs. I just want the license covered, but I don't know where it's going to fit. All right. Any questions on adding the equipment or basic maintenance? All right. You're all quiet there. So just wanted to make sure. All right, so let me show you what it looks like if you're going to ask for that, that monitoring management of your network. Now, remember, this is management of the eligible equipment. So management of your router, switches, firewall, again, that eligible equipment. So if part of that contract, let's say it's for management of your general file server, all right, maybe it's, assistance down to the desktop, all right, down to the end user device. So because general file servers, end user devices are not eligible for E-rate, you could not get E-rate to cover that day-to-day management operation of those ineligible components. Also, as far as ineligible, remember E-rate does not cover anything that has to do with voice, providing voice. So if you have VoIP equipment, all right, at your facilities, you could not get the management, the operation of that covered. It's only the eligible equipment. So if we want that type of service, that operation management and monitoring, choose the third radio button. And then it's asking, are you seeking the management of currently leased or equipment that you will be leasing? Or is this management of equipment that you already own or will own? All right. So let's say you already have the APs, the switches, everything in place, and you want that management. All right. You would choose that second option. You would also choose a second option if you want what you already have in place covered. Plus, maybe you're asking to add, let's say, an additional 10 APs, all right? And you want management of everything that's already installed, plus the new equipment that will be installed. All right, so in that case, I'm going to choose the second option there, what I currently own or will own. All right, but again, E-rate does cover if you want a MIBS contract where the service provider also will roll in the cost of leasing that equipment. I haven't seen many of the libraries utilize that, but a lot of the schools do. Okay, so here I indicated it's for my currently owned or will own. Now here, all it's asking is, well, okay, well, how many entities will this serve? Well, it's going to serve my main library plus my 3 branches. So let's say a quantity of 4, all right? It does not ask anywhere within this request for the equipment so that the service provider understands what you already have in place, all right? So we would click on Save Request, but that's where you would want to explain that either in the narrative, or that's where it would be a good idea to upload, say, that spreadsheet that says, here's the list of what we currently have in place that we want managed, monitored for us. All right, so make, model of the quantity. Like I said, nowhere in this pull down, the various fields does it ask for that additional information. All right, so I'll just click on Save Request. All right, so now you can see, I've got all of this now in this table. So just look through, make sure you have everything covered. Okay, and then down in the narrative, once you've added all of the service, come down to the narrative, and you can see here it's indicating that for this narrative, you should list any disqualification factors. Vendors need to know up front that something's going to get them disqualified. All right, any additional details about the eligible locations that'll be receiving the service, all right, or other information about the service that would help bidders develop their quotes. So again, they need to know if you're asking for network drops, all right, they're going to need to know some information about the building. If I'm asking for network drops, or if I'm asking for MIBS for my existing equipment, I typically suggest requiring a walkthrough of your facility, all right, that especially with putting in additional drops, all right, that vendors are required to come on site, walk through your building, so you'll have a sign-in sheet, all right, and then you would state, that the walkthrough is mandatory. Any bids received from a vendor who did not attend the walkthrough will be disqualified. All right, first off, it helps to make sure you get a very complete quote. Remember that E-rate is a national program. So, vendors from all over the country will go out and look at your posted 470 and send you a quote. All right. So you could be overwhelmed with quotes depending on, the size of your project. So that's a good way of, eliminating those vendors. Like I said, that really, they don't have an idea what it is you're truly looking for. But we can see here in the narrative, I've listed something like we're seeking access points and network drops for each device. If you have uploaded an RFP document, I always add the language. See the attached RFP document. That gives the vendor the heads up. They need to go out and look at that document to get the full details. All right. So see the attached RFP document for a list of sites and addresses, floor plans of each building, and all bidding requirements. All right. So again, if you're looking at some network drops, all right, good idea to upload the floor plans. I've added the language here. If bidding on the cabling project, a site walkthrough is required in order for your bid to be considered. Scheduled dates for walkthroughs can be found in the RFP. With the walkthroughs, I typically recommend at least 2 dates. So in case we have, some bad weather, some snow days, whatever, that they have that second date. Now, USAC, the last several years, has insisted that we need to state specifically the deadline for receiving bids. We have always considered that 29th day, right, as the bid deadline. But USAC says now you have to clearly state that. Okay, so I've added language there. Applicant reserves the right to reject bids that are received on or after the allowable contract date shown on the 470. When we file a 470, once you submit it, you can go in and look, and there's a portion or a place there on the form that says allowable contract date, and it shows here's the 29th day. All right. So again, suggest that you do that. Now, if you decide to wait, the way this is worded, we reserve the right to reject. That leaves the door open that if you want to stick with that 29th day as the deadline, that's your call. So any vendor that reaches out to you, say on the 30th day, the 35th day, you can say, nope, our deadline has passed. But it does leave it open that if you do need to extend that period of time, maybe you want to wait 45 days. Maybe you have a vendor that contacted you, and maybe you're really interested in, entertaining, going with them. They need more time to prepare their bid. All right. So by using that language, we reserve the right to reject. You could, like I said, also extend it. Okay. Is there a question here? Okay. Just make sure that, if you extend the deadline for one vendor, you have to entertain all, vendors that contact you to say, hey, can I have more time? All right. You would give everyone the same, extended deadline date. All right. So again, just some suggestions here. All right. Once you have the narrative completed there, then you would click on Save and Continue. Now, if you see that maybe you transpose numbers, maybe you put in an incorrect quantity, all right, for one of the items here in the table, just come up and check the box to the left. I mean, pretty almost self-explanatory here. Check the box to the left of whatever it is you need to correct. When you check that box, then the option here to edit service request or remove service request will then become active. All right, so then let's say if I check the first box, I click on edit, it's going to go back to that page and I can make whatever corrections. All right, but I'll click on Save and Continue. All right, once we do continue there, this is where it's asking, is there a technical contact person, yes or no? If you indicate no, click on Save and Continue. If you indicate yes, all right, this is where it's going to ask, do you want to search the Epic system for the user, or do you want to enter their details manually? All right, so again, if this individual does not have a portal account, all right, manually provide their information there. We have to provide the email twice. Now, make sure that whoever you list here, that they're not affiliated with the service provider. All right, because I know again, I see this more on the school sides, but I know that some libraries, may contract with an IT company, to help with the day-to-day support of your equipment. You could not list that individual, all right, as a contact. If there's that, potential that you could also purchase equipment from them. All right, they cannot be listed as a contact on your forms. All right, so Save and Continue. Now, it does ask, are there any state or local procurement requirements? Because we're a local control state, we typically, there are no, true procurement rules here. All right, but I always indicate yes here, because it's not just some state rule. We could also put any other restrictions on how or when the service providers might contact you, or any other bidding requirements. All right, so if there's, factors, disqualifying factors, I put it in the narrative. I repeat it here as well. So, I've indicated that the vendors must conduct a mandatory walkthrough, the option, basically we're stating, that here's the date that bids are due. All right, I put it there as well. All right, any questions on that? Okay. All right, so once we're done, we'll click on Review Form 470. Now, I have this document out on my website under the resource library. It's something I've been I've been collecting bid factors for some time. Anytime we have an issue in our state, that we experience, either, I see it with a school applicant or a library applicant. I've been adding, some best practices to this list. All right. So again, these are some things that it's a Word document out there. You can go, grab the document, copy and paste. All right. So again, some things to consider, especially with category 2. If you're adamant, or this is this is kind of a given, all right? If you want to make sure that whatever's being quoted is compatible with your existing infrastructure, state that. So then when you do your bid evaluation, you can have a factor on that evaluation, was this quote compatible, with our existing infrastructure? All right, so the first one here, all hardware quoted must be compatible. If you are adamant that you only want new equipment, that you don't want used or gray market equipment, all right, state that. All right, so that way, if you do get a quote for some used equipment, you can disqualify on that bid. All right, because you've already stated, all right, the quote will not be considered. You might also want to indicate that vendors must have a SPIN, that's that service provider identification number, at the time that you're awarding the contract. All right, because, there may be a new vendor, maybe it's a local vendor that previously has not participated with E-rate, and they've started the process to apply to get the identification number. But if they drop the ball or they decide not to proceed, when we go to file the 471, we use that identification number to show this is who we're buying the equipment from. All right, so then you're going to have issues, all right, if they don't have that number. Cabling vendors must be bonded or insured. You can ask that all quotes be honored at the time of purchase. We've already talked about requiring the walkthrough. This one, vendor must demonstrate that they're a valid reseller of the products quoted. I added this one several years ago when we had a vendor in our state that was quoting equipment that they can't sell. And it actually happened on a school applicant where they went with the quote that this vendor, gave them because they were by far the cheapest. They didn't find out until after they had filed their 471, a manufacturer got, basically got wind that this vendor had quoted their product. And the manufacturer reached out to the school district and said, if you buy that equipment, we're not going to honor the warranty. We're not going to give you the product code. All right. So again, just something you might want to keep in mind. If you prefer in-state or local, you can state that. All right. I always put previous experience with vendor preferred as well. All right. So again, if you get a quote for, from a previous vendor, then, you would give them the points, all right, because you have previous experience versus someone you've never worked with, they would get 0 points, and it can help sway that purchasing decision, all right? And you'll see it here on the bid matrix here in a minute. All right. Another thing here, if you're adamant that you want discounted billing, remember with E-rate, there's one of two ways to get the funding. It's either you pay the invoice in full, and then you're responsible then for filing the bear form for the reimbursement. The other option is to communicate with the provider that you want discounted billing. All right. And then it falls on the service provider. Let's say your discount rate is 80%. The service provider would bill you for the 20%, the portion E-rate's not going to cover. And then the service provider files the paperwork for the reimbursement. All right. But I would have them put that in writing, that they will give you that discounted bill. So that way, if they refuse to put it in writing, then you can score them accordingly. All right, again, just some things to keep in mind. Now, once we click on review the form, it literally kicks us out of the 470. All right, this part can take several minutes depending on how busy the portal is. So the closer we get to the deadline, the longer this will take. All right, but give it, 2 or 3 minutes, come up and click on tasks. All right, you may get a message saying that, a task will become available. All right, if there's no task listed, give it another minute, click on task again. Once it's done generating that draft document, all right, you're going to see a task listed as Certify Form 470. All right, so we'll click on that hyperlink. All right, now we'll see a link here. It says download document link. This is a draft version of the 470. I suggest you click there, pull down that draft and look it over carefully. All right, make sure that, all the equipment, all the services, everything's listed, quantities are correct, check over your narrative, those state requirements. Make sure everything's correct there. If it is correct, check the box right below that saying that, yes, I certify it is correct. If you see that you need to make a change, though, you'll see the option here to click on back. Now, when you click on back, it's going to take you all the way to the very beginning of the form where you'll see the nickname. So you'll just keep clicking on save and continue, all right, until you get to the table of services. All right, then you can make those corrections. Now, if everything is good and we've checked the box, then the next step then is the actual certification. When you certify, it certifies and submits, all right, all in one click. Now, if you are a full, what we call a full right user in the portal, that means you have the authority to fill out the forms as well as provide the certification. If you're designated as a partial right user in the portal, you're only going to see the option for send the certification. When you click that, it's going to send an email to any and all full right users that are in the portal to let them know that they need to go in and complete this task. Now, if you do click on send for certification, let the individuals know there's a task they need to complete. I've seen applicants go through this step and, maybe someone received the email, but they had no idea what was going on, or maybe they simply missed the email and the application never got certified. All right. So until they go in and complete that task, it's not done. All right. So let's say we're full rights. We'll click on continue. Do you want to proceed? Yes. Now, when you look at the left-hand side, all right, there's a series, 7 boxes here. All of those have to be checked. All right, read through them. All right, make sure you're comfortable with the certification. If you read something there and you're not comfortable, providing the certification, you can click on back and then you get another option, to click on send. Have someone else that's listed in the portal complete the certification. All right, but if you're good with everything, you check the boxes, click on certify, you get the pop-up saying, okay, here's the penalty. This is where we all take a deep breath. All right, click on yes, you want to proceed. Okay, so once you submit the application, strongly suggest that you go into the portal and you make sure of the status. The last couple of years, we've had some issues where, once you submit, even on a good day, it could take a minute or two for the status of your form to switch from from incomplete to certified. But the last couple of years, we've actually had issues where forms never changed status. All right. So it was never actually submitted. It was just a glitch in the portal. All right. So to do this, I'm going to jump back over to the training site. I think it'll be easier to see. And I'm going to discard this form. All right, so I'm going to click on the logo. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so at the very bottom of the landing page, there's a section called FCC Forms and Post-Commitment Request. The default is the 470. And it's also going to show you all 470s, whether they're incomplete, certified, or if you've canceled one. But we do have to click on the pull down and choose the funding year. Okay, the most current or upcoming, pardon me, a little tickle here. All right, the most current, like I said, that we're applying for will be listed first. So I'll choose 2025. All right, and then it's going to show all 470s that have been filed, all right, or that are sitting out there, and then the status. All right, so we can see where here's my Cat 2. I can read across and I can see that the status is indeed certified. If it's listed as incomplete, all right, give it about 30 seconds to a minute and refresh your browser. Make sure that the status that it does change. All right, so let's click on the nickname. That's the hyperlink. Drill down to your form. Okay, this is the really important piece that after checking the status, you want to verify the allowable contract date. Again, that's that 29th date. It's the first date that you can start evaluating bids. All right, and it's listed right here. All right, allowable contract date. All right, and you want to make sure that all decision makers are aware of that date. All right, because if a decision is made prior to that, then you're not going to get funded. Now, when I scroll down, it's going to show, any and all services. If you put both Cat 1 and Cat 2 in the same form, all right, all of that's going to be listed. If you indicated a technical contact, all right, all of that will show here. All right. Now, the next thing I want to show you, the 470, there are some changes that we can make. All right. And to get to those options, if we click on related actions, all right, so we have to drill down, get to our 470 first, click on related actions. All right. And then we'll see the options here. Now, editing the application nickname. So if you want to go and change that name, all right, that's not going to change your service in any way. You're just changing the nickname. Now I'm going to drop down these two options, change the main contact or edit the technical contact. All right, again, you can make those changes, will not impact the service at all. All right, but this option here, add an RFP document. So this was something brand new that's just been added for this year. Keep in mind, if you did not upload an RFP document when you initially filed the 470, we now have the ability to go back to that application and upload a support document. But you need to be very, very careful, all right? Because if there's anything in that document that changes the service request in any way, that resets your 28-day waiting period. All right. So again, you want to be very careful if you go to add an additional document. All right. Because if I click on add an RFP, it's going to ask you, does this new RFP constitute a substantial change to your 470? And it doesn't have to be real substantial. All right. It could be changing a quantity, say from 50 APs to 60. All right. That's changing your service. All right. And if you indicate yes, then it's telling you it's going to change your 28-day waiting period. But then we'll see the option here to upload that document. All right. So once we do, if you do upload something, then it's going to show you, okay, here's the table with all of the various, selections there, all the service types. Then we check the box to the left of the service, all right, to indicate which service types or subcategories here will be basically affected by this new RFP document. All right. And then we just click on submit. And then once we do that, all right, go back and check that allowable contract date again and make sure everybody's aware, all decision makers are aware that that date has changed. All right. Again, really important because I'm expecting it's going to catch a lot of folks. All right. So again, that is an option. Now, the other option, and again, this is brand new for this year, is we can cancel a 470. Let's say you filed a 470 and maybe you're still under contract. So you realized I really didn't need to file that 470 and you don't want to be hounded, by questions or receiving quotes from a service provider. We have that option now to cancel and then just give an explanation, contract is still will be in place, 470 not needed. Okay, it can be very simple. All right, and then you click on cancel. Now, when you cancel it, it's not going to totally remove it from the portal. All right, it will just sit out there, but the status will then be listed as canceled. All right, but like I said, this is brand new for this upcoming year. And I'm going to say now I'm not going to really cancel that. All right. So again, this is what we were just looking at. So the bid matrix, again, this is very, very important. If you receive 2 or more bids, you need to construct a bid matrix. Now, if you only receive 1 bid and you're happy with it, you won't do a bid matrix because you're not comparing it, right, to anyone else, but put something in writing. USAC says that you have to show, clearly show here's the date that you made that decision. It could be simply, sending yourself an email. You could put it in, a PDF document, just save it in your files. But just state, as of this date, this is the only quote that we received, but we think it's, we feel it's cost effective and we're going with this provider. All right. So that if you get questioned down the road, all right, you're covered. But again, if it's 2 or more vendors, construct the bid matrix. Now, any of those items that you put on that 470, you can use those as factors. Now, the E-rate rule has always been that price has to have basically the highest number of points, all right, most heavily weighted here. Okay, price, again, always has to have the highest points. So we can see here that I've assigned price as 50 points. USAC does not dictate this point spread. It's up to you, as long as you can show that price had the highest number. So we can see we've got price at 50 points, prior experience at 20. And again, you can, like I said, adjust these numbers however you like. Compatibility, all right, flexible invoicing, local or in-state, all right. And then basically just plug in the name of the vendors and assign the points. But we can see here in this example that vendor number 2, they were cheapest, so they received, all of the points for price, all 50. Vendor 3, who was the next lowest, they received 40 points. All right, but because we've had prior experience with them, their quote was more fully compatible. They offered to do the discounted billing, okay, and they're local or in state. We can see that they receive the highest number of points. So E-rate does not require that you go with the lowest bid. You just have to justify why you chose one vendor over another. Now, if let's say this was a cabling project and you required a walkthrough, and a vendor who did not show up for the walkthrough gave you a bid, you would not include that vendor in in this comparison, all right? Because again, they've already been disqualified. Well, what I would do is I would make a note when I construct my bid matrix. I would make a note at the bottom saying, note XYZ vendor. We've received a quote from XYZ vendor, but they did not attend the mandatory walkthrough, so they've been disqualified. USAC says you have to give a reason why you disqualified a bid. All right, again, another document that's out on the resource library. It's actually a 2-page document. There's a bid evaluation for both Category 1 and Category 2. It's in Word format, so you can come in and you can edit it, all right? But plug in, again, your bid factors. You can tweak the points however you see fit, add in all of the companies. And then I've got the some language here at the bottom where you can plug in, the name of the provider, the type service, all right? And then list your name, sign it, and put a date on it. Very important that you date it, again, so that you can show the decision was made before you awarded the contract. All right. Now, this you just keep in your files. Do not upload this to the E-rate portal. You just keep that in your documents. Should you get a request down the road, during an audit. Okay, that is pretty much the CAT 2 470. All right. Are there any questions? I like to say you've been very quiet. Either I totally confused you or I did a good job explaining it. I'm never sure which.
I'm going to say that totally quiet means everyone is enthralled, and you did an excellent job of explaining it, Lori.
Okay.
I appreciate the reminder about your list of procurement requirements. I've got stars and arrows and asterisks all around that because I'm getting ready to do some work on our own procurement requirements for some things. So.
And Muhammad, I understand need more coffee. I told Christine right before folks started joining. It's been that kind of day. I'm still drinking coffee. It's not going to be good this evening, but it's not going to be pretty this evening. I'm still drinking coffee.
Yeah, so far it's been coffee, iced tea, and Coca-Cola for me today. So it's yeah, like I said early on, I hope you all are having better better days than Lori and I are.
Well, I knew it was bad when it's like, okay, I'm going to transition from coffee. I'm going to go get a Mountain Dew. Hey, it's a diet Mountain Dew. Does that count for anything?
It's still Mountain Dew, man. That's yeah, at 3 o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah. For
All
me,
right.
that's hardcore. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thank you for joining us, everyone. Again, helpful documents, absolutely. If you did not get the slides ahead of time, those are on Lori's site. They're also on the event website, and I'll send a link to that on the follow-up, which should be coming shortly. If not today, well, actually, no. I was just thinking, Laura's out tomorrow, so it probably won't be posted to our YouTube channel till Monday, but we certainly have a lot of resources here. Lori is wonderful, as you already know. And again, thank you on this Blur's Day. Thank goodness it's almost Friday for joining us this afternoon. We really do appreciate it. And Lori, I think I'm going to stop the recording.
Right. And Christine, I appreciate the kind words.